Pratarsmarami Hridi Samsphuradātmatattvam Satchit Sukham Paramahamsa Gatim Turiyam Yat Swapna Jagara Sushuptam Abhaiti Nityam Tat Brahma Nishkalamaham Nacha Bhuta Sangaha. I meditate upon my nature as a conscious being that naturally, by just being what I am, light up all my experiences. Like a lamp placed on a windowsill, lights up both the inside of a room as outside the room. Similarly, I light up things outside the body as well as inside the body. Outside the body, if I see a form through my eyes, like a table, if I analyze the process of seeing a table, I find there are three components to it. One component is the form of the table. Another component is the eyes. Which is designed to experience forms. And the third component I am seeing the table. This is a three-way, three-component process called Triputi. The components of Triputi are Jneyah, the one that is known, Jnata, the knower, which in this case is finally the Ahankara, and Jnanam, which is the entire process of knowing by the Jnata This is also applicable in all the other forms of knowing. The words can be Jneyah, the Jnata remains the same, and Jnanam is the process of hearing. I meditate upon myself that naturally, meaning by just being who I am, lighting up the Triputi. I meditate upon the fact that the eyes cannot be functional without the awareness. A simple eyeball is inert without the presence of consciousness. The table is not known until consciousness falls on it. Jnata also is not functional unless I bless it. So like a lamp placed on a windowsill, lighting up objects outside the wall. Similarly, I light up the entire process of experiencing things from outside. All the processes of experiencing things are an appliance a very sophisticated appliance designed by Ishvara. And the empowering of this appliance is done by the presence of consciousness, which is the real nature of Paramatma. and also my Atma. There is only one source of consciousness, which is required for all external experiences. Similar to the outside experiences, external experiences are the internal experiences. Since we have taken the reference point as the body, in terms of defining what is outside and what is inside, let us examine the lighting up of the internal experiences. It should be noted that there is a common factor between the outside and the inside. And this is Vayu. The air. I meditate upon this common factor Vayu between external and internal experiences. The common element between the macrocosm and the microcosm, between samashti and vyashti. As samashti, it is Vayu. As soon as it crosses over to the internal part of this reference, the Vayu expresses itself as prana. Prana as the life force. The life force that infuses the experience of living. The internal part the internal experiences are just as varied, just as sophisticated as the external experiences. The physiological aspects of the body I am aware of. I don't have to see it clearly, but they are there. That my heart is working, my lungs are working, my blood is circulating, my kidneys are functioning, my digestion, the breaking down of the food, keeping the nutrients, expelling the waste products are all functioning. Then the mind my thoughts my knowledge memory are all functioning. They are all functioning because I light them up as my very nature. I am like a lamp situated on a windowsill. I am lighting up, naturally lighting up without any effort, by my very nature, lighting up both external and internal experiences. The external experiences keep changing and are completely erased when I switch over from waking to dreaming. The dream experiences completely change when I wake up. There is a special and a different jnata for the dream. And in deep sleep, the jnata also disappears. The external experiences also disappear. The internal experiences also disappear. Only the conscious I remains the same. May I remind myself of this phenomena. All experiences rely on me, but I am independent of them. Like a steady lamp, merely lighting up the various forms and experiences. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gokarastvandakaro Vai Lukarastvanivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, let's begin the study of Mandukya Karika. So in the last class we had taken up verse number 83 out of a total of 100, so we have about 16-17 more to go. So what was being pointed out by Gaudapadacharya ji is that even after knowing that my essential nature is Turiyam, different from the Jnata, also called Vishwa in the waking state, and the Jnata number 2, which is called Taijasa in the dream state, and the absence of the Jnata but covered by ignorance, so having some entityship. It's not a complete disappearance. Only the projection is gone, but the avarana is still there. And so that status is called prajna, which is a deep sleeper. So those are the three things that I play the roles of. And then I am the turiya, which even though I am playing the role, I am none of the roles by themselves. So this was pointed out throughout our study, and this is what is being concluded. So in this part of the teaching, what is being pointed out is that even after knowing that I am the Turiyam, different from Vishwa, Taijasa, and Prajna, I can continue to live in this empirical world. This is not an either or. So I can be a Turiya but still live in the empirical world, still process the experiences. So the only difference is whether the experiences, what is the nature of the experiences? If the experiences appear to be a reality of its own, which is exactly how my life starts and continues on until this understanding occurs, that if the outside things have a certain reality which makes my reality as a puny one, because the outside is huge, the world is huge, and I am just a puny one. And so if the outside world means both inside and outside, as we saw in the meditation, has a certain reality to it, then I have a different view of who I am. Not of a Turiya, but then as a Vishwa, Taijasa or Prajna, my status of being one of those is very real. But if I were to see through the Vidya that really speaking, the status of Vishwa appliance relies on the working of the electricity, on the presence of the electricity. So, what is being pointed out is that for a jnani, And so here jnani means, the word jnani also has to be understood very well. Because we think about jnanis are the ones who are become jivan muktas. So that's one way of looking at it. It all depends on how you define a jnani. The word, a wise person, jnani. Jnanam asya asti iti jnani. One who has knowledge about the self is called a jnani. So the definition of jnani can be in a couple of ways. One of them is that it is a complete jivan mukta. Complete means a jivan mukta. You don't have to say complete. Jivan mukta. Jivan mukta means one who has completely assimilated the fact that the so-called outside is not real. This is a jnani. Or you can say the word jnani, meaning essentially what is the distinction between drik and drishya, between jnata and jneyam, between turiya and all the other three roles. He knows that. And I would say this. I would say that you who have stuck with me for understanding these basics of the Vedanta for so long are jnanis. I really believe so. I really believe so. Because I am sure that if somebody says, please explain to me what are the constituents, what is going on, you may have some doubts here and there, but you have a pretty good idea now. What is the nature of Atma? What is the nature of Anatma? And how things are lighted up. All of that you know by now. So you can be called a jnani even if you are not a jivan mukta. This is the point I'm making. So the word jnani can be defined any way. But in this context, what is being said is that even if you are a jnani, jnani means that you have a pretty good idea of what your reality is, but you are still in the process of making sure that the results of jnanam are yours. It's not quite there yet. It will happen. And so for that, you need to... so here, the entire teaching is in the form of gradually understanding the mithyatvam of the world, and now the results of knowing are being presented. So this is our, as we have said, that Mandukya is a very, very advanced text. Karika is even more advanced than that, in the sense that it goes through a lot of implications of the Mandukya. And so we don't have to feel bad that I don't get all of it. What we should do is, as I've said before, I'm just repeating myself, that you should see it as markers in my life. This is where, kind of like somebody showing you in the map, okay, if you go in this direction, you will see a building on the right hand side. Okay? If you don't see a building on the right hand side, that means that you took the wrong way. Okay, after you take the building on the right hand side, then you turn left. And after a while, you will see a cluster of homes. And then, then means that you're going in the right direction. Then you go further like that. These are markers on the road. So similarly here also, the teaching of Mandukya and the Karika are markers on the road in my life. I should see whether I am going in the right direction or not. It doesn't mean that I get everything all done and I say, I don't get it, I don't get it. We are not going to get it until we really imbibe all of this in our heart. But nevertheless, the markers should be very clear. So the markers being given here are that Even a person who is, this is the important thing which is being given, which is a basic doubt that we have, but it should be clearly understood what the understand of this explanation. What is being pointed out is that even a jnani, in the definition of the Jivan Mukti has not yet taken place. Even that kind of a jnani should feel, and especially as you move towards the Jivan Mukti, means there more of an absorption. You see, this is the point. I think one of the teachers had pointed out that Shravanam is like eating. And Mananam and Nididhyasanam are like digesting and enjoying the nutrition of what you are eating. Beautiful example. That really speaking, you cannot live healthily unless you eat. This is the thing. Living beings have to eat living things. Swami Chinmayananji used to say this. This is just on a complete aside. We were threatened for evacuation, as you know, a couple of weeks ago. And what happened during the preparation for the evacuation, we had to look to see, okay, we have an hour or two, what are we going to collect? And so you did the normal things. There is a file for important papers where you have your passport and so on and so forth. Like that we did. But then it dawned on us that all throughout my long life, we have never collected and digitized our photographs. And I was okay with it. I said, so we lose photographs. So what's the big? Let's go on. But my family was just absolutely insistent. And so yours truly, I would say 80% of the job of collecting everything was done by going through all the drawers at various places of the home and collecting the pictures, finding huge suitcases which I have not used for a long time, dusting them off, putting the pictures in it, carrying them downstairs into the cars. It took, I'm not telling you, I'm not joking with you, for 2-hour preparation, hour and a half was collecting all the pictures. That was all done. Now, over the time I was thinking we should digitize all the pictures so that these days, and so finally this is how Ishvara works. Just a month prior to this, one of my friends said, I digitized all the pictures. And if you want, you can borrow my digitizer. And I wasn't thinking of it. I said, okay, well, maybe we'll see. Well, that time has come. So anyway, to put a long story short, I have collected all the pictures, sorted them, and I got the digitizer from her, the scanner. And now in the next few weeks, unfortunately, I have to spend some time doing this. I have to scan all the pictures. Now, sorry about this long story, but what reminded me was that when I was a lot of pictures, it was in August of 1976. The very first day he was here, I took a picture of him. I have that. And his beard is all black. And so on. Very interesting. And then all the times, of course, I spent a lot of time with Swami Dayanandji. All the pictures are there. And so it would be fun to share it with you anyway. So that's something as part of that. But anyway, Swami Chinmayanand used to say exactly the same thing. This is what reminded me. His name came and then the whole story came. Swami Chinmayanand used to remind us that really speaking, it is not until you start to apply your knowledge into your own life. And the way to do that, so this is another point to make a point of this one, that it is not necessary for you to withdraw from your life in order to progress towards Jivan Mukti. Not necessary. In fact, this is the reason why the entire setup of the Bhagavad Gita is their way. This is an important point. That it's not as though Arjuna says, please teach me what's going on, and Krishna says, no. I can't teach you because you're involved in the middle of this war. You're an active person. Because, life is really kind of like a mini war. We have things going on. We have to, if I attend too much on this direction, then the other thing goes wrong. If I attend to here, then the first thing goes wrong. So there's a lot of stuff going on in our lives, as you know. And so Krishna didn't say that, you've got to give up everything before you understand. He says, no, keep fighting. But while you are involved in life, please be aware of the jnanam and how it really will slowly seep into you. So this is the point that they're making. Swami Chinmayanand also used to make the same point. So another important part of that is the word nididhyasanam. It has lots of sophisticated meanings. It's not a simple meaning, nididhyasanam. Certainly is not just dhyanam. It is different from the yogic dhyanam, where you just close your eyes and you are looking at only one thing at a time. And that is dhyanam. But this is not dhyanam. This is nididhyasanam. So the reason I am bringing this out is that the nididhyasanam means that while you are transacting with things, you bring into your mind the fact that there is something funny going on. I am unaffected by nature. Turiya is not in touch directly with Sukha Dukkha, and yet I appear to be. And our entire process, this is what he's saying. Sometimes this is known as Ishvara Buddhi. You are remembering Ishvara. But all of these are words that we have to be careful, because Ishvara Buddhi means that you always think about Ishvara as being separate from you. So that has its own problems. Ishvara Buddhi, hey Ishvara, please protect me, doing so on and so forth. Ishvara is nothing but your own internal reality. This is the Atma. And in fact, in the Gaudapadas, he calls this Bhagavan. In fact, we went through this last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, where he says he addresses the Atma as Bhagavan, as Ishvara. So therefore, the memory of saying, I should remember Ishvara, I should remember, you know what that really means? Ultimately, eventually, and in a real way, what it means is that as you are transacting, you bring to your mind the truth of what the Shastra is telling you. You see that, my goodness, I am never born. Asangoham, I am not connected. If there is a connection, it is adhyasika sambandha, means it's an erroneous connection. The same connection as it is between the rope and the snake. You bring that to your mind as you are transacting. Now if you are driving, especially in a stop and go, there you shouldn't be doing this because you have to really concentrate. But those instances are very small percentage of the transactions. And so this is nididhyasanam. So nididhyasanam doesn't mean that you just sit down, close, shut off all the lights and you do this. That is also nididhyasanam. But just in transactions, it should be also nididhyasanam. This is the point that number 83 is making. Now, another thing it is making is, an important point it is making, I'm just on verse number 83, that it is not just when you are transacting with experiences that you have to deal with, such as eating, preparing food, working at the office. Those are very clear. Those are things that you have to be involved in. But as far as possible, bring to your mind the fact that there is something funny going on. So this is the process of nididhyasanam. Now the second part of the nididhyasanam is that even when you are by yourself thinking, it's not necessary that our experiences are always with other people and necessary things and so on. So this is what is called nitya naimittika karma. Nitya naimittika karma means things that have to be done. They have to be done. Kartavyaha. That is to be done, should be done. But in addition to that, we have kamya karma. Kamya karma is just your own thoughts. Nobody is telling you all of this. Of course, there is some influence of the outside. We cannot say that these are unconnected. I'm not saying that. They are connected. But primarily, you have your own thoughts. You're lost in them. And this is the issue that this is one of the markers. What you'll find is that just examine what your thoughts are. If the thoughts are that, I think I should be doing this, you should be aware of it. Why should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? So have that parallel thinking going on even when others are not bothering you. That's the point. That's the point. And here I'm reading some of the text from Swami Paramarthananda's commentary. It says, in this verse, Gaudapadacharya ji says that it need not be a concrete anatma that you are dealing with where nididhyasanam is necessary. It doesn't have to be that. But even an abstract idea or different philosophical systems can create a problem. A particular idea, if it is the object of attachment, can distract a person. And in fact, he says something very interesting. He says, obsession with anything can create samsara. Even virtues can become sattvika bondage. This is a very important thing. Even virtues need to be, so both punya and papa, both of them have to be rejected. Rejected means that you should see the limitation of it. What is the limitation of punya? Papa is very obvious, that please avoid unnecessary problems to yourself by doing wrong things. Clear, done. What about punya? Punya means helping others, and eventually you find that really helping others will give you the happiness. Even that has to be eventually given up because you don't want happiness. You are happiness. That has to be discovered. And this is the reason I'm saying this, is I'm not saying that don't help others. That's not what I'm saying. The point is that people that are enjoying life are not a good candidate for this vidya, because they are too busy enjoying. This is the criticism which is leveled at all the heavenly people, that they are so enjoying themselves with music and dance and so on. You tell them, please, don't you want to know about the Atma? They'll say, I don't understand. Why? I'm having fun. Just leave me alone. So, to close off verse number 83, I want to go on. It says that please do nididhyasanam, particularly when your mind is wandering in different things. If it is needed to be done, then do it. Even there, you should be aware of the fact that it is a part of the prarabdha karma that you are doing it. That's necessary. You keep doing it. But when you have a choice, then dwelling on the anatma, that is a great opportunity for you to remind yourself exactly what is going on. And here one final point before we go on to verse number 84 is that I don't know whether I think somewhere it was pointed out, I read this very nice point, that your chances of making progress in looking at things as mithya. Mithya means not really important. That's what the real meaning of mithya is. I really have allowed myself, and this is only when I'm eating my food, is to look at sports scores. Whether the Giants won or the Giants lost, what the 49ers are playing, and so on. That's it. That is the only movie mithya that I indulge in. Everything else I don't really think about. So here's the point that they're making. They're saying that your chances of looking at the whole world as mithya is greater if there is no impelling reason for you to deal with it. Okay? Now, is a corollary to this is that if you find yourself to be upset, if you are really upset or you are highly attracted at something, both of them, pravritti marga and nivritti marga, are very strong, your chances of, if you are angry for some reason, upset, how can you say that the things are a mithya? You cannot say that. In fact, the very reason you are angry or upset is because you cannot stand the reality of that thing. Isn't it? So therefore, to be very involved in things as a kamya karma, as a desireful object, I've got to do this, this will be wonderful to do, and so on, or to recoil from things, being upset at things and so on, you have very little chance of doing nididhyasana. So start with doing nididhyasanam on normal transactions where it is not really impelled, you are not impelled to do it. Anyway, so those are the things. And then the final point, and I'm ready to go, is Gaudapadaji saying that all these schools of thought, Nyaya, Yogachara, Jainism, and Shunyavada and Sankhya and Vaisheshika, science. Science is the exploration of science. All of these are just ideas. And in fact, they say that even that comes in number 84. So I'll postpone this. Anyway, so that is what 83 was saying. Now let's move on to 84. And in the interest of time, I'm going to quickly go through, not even read the Sanskritam. Kothyas chatasra etastu, etc. So, he says, these four views, by constantly holding which the Atma is covered, Atma is untouched by these views. He by whom this is understood is omniscient, sarvadrik. So the four ones were pointed out earlier. I forget the exact number of the verses, which says asti, nasti, and nasti nasti. So these are the ones that were said Maya, Yogachara, Jaina and Shunyavada. These were the ideas that were presented. And it says that, please see that these particular positions are ideas. And therefore, anatma. Ideas are also anatma. And if you're holding on to them, if you are obsessed by them, if you are interested in them, then you are going away from an understanding of what is Atma. And here a question can come in, what about Vedanta? Isn't Vedanta also an idea? This is an idea where eventually that also has to be given up, but it leads to Atma. It leads to Atma. So Atma means you are not an idea, you are you. So all ideas have to be given up and only you remain. Turiya remains. This is what we have to do. So here one can say that even Vedanta, as Gaudapadacharya ji has done, that remember in the earlier several weeks ago we went through that even the Vedantic view, like for example Srishti, the very creation, it is taught in the beginning there is a creation. In Purusha Suktam we are doing Srishti and so on. That also eventually has to be given up. There is no Srishti. It is just an appearance and it has no beginning, no end. And you have to call it by what it is. It is just, it's a magic show. That's all. So even Vedanta has to be given up. But what it means is when you give it up, something remains. You cannot give up. Who gives something up? That one remains. It's kind of like, yes, all these schools of thoughts and ideas are like a dream. They don't really have any reality to it. But if you are pounced on by a tiger in your dream, that is a very useful incident in the dream, because it wakes you up. The tiger in the dream is sent by Ishvara. Hey, wake up. So similarly, Vedanta is like a tiger in your life. Yes, the tiger itself, after it wakes you up, it disappears itself. Vedanta also disappears. In fact, in some of the Upanishad it says, and I am really bad at recalling the exact ones. So it says, Vedaha aveda bhavati. Vedaha aveda. It says, eventually Veda also disappears. All words, all ideas, they all disappear. But it has done its job. Because you realize, my goodness, I am an independent, conscious entity, unaffected by the entire set of experiences. Wow. Then you need nothing. No ideas, you don't need in order to have an idea, you need to have a body. You don't need a body, you don't need mind, nothing. You are what you are. So that is verse number 84. Made some notes of it. I want to finish up to 86 today. So in number 85, having attained the total omniscience and the non-dual state of Brahmanhood, which is free from beginning, middle and end, what does he desire thereafter? So, this is the benefit of knowledge is restated. Now we are in a summary phase. It's already been explained in detail, but has been restated. And the fact is that when you attain a sense of fulfillment, then your need to do anything, to desire anything is gone. It's not as though you are dead, but you are totally fulfilled. As an ahankara, you cannot be totally fulfilled. It is not possible. You can be fulfilled for a short amount of time. When things in your life are going well, then for a short amount of time you feel, I'm okay. But if you are honest with yourself and you examine the nature of your fulfillment, it in fact is fleeting. And then you start the desiring again for another sense of fulfillment. So this is the nature of our ahankara. But if you understand you are not the ahankara, that the partial fulfillment, the temporary fulfillment is nothing but an aspect of you who is totally fulfilled, which is the non-dual nature. And here the non-dual nature is despite duality. This is what we have to see. It's not the absence of duality, it is despite duality. If you feel I am okay the way I am, this is the very essence of Vedanta. Then you are called Brahmana, a real Brahmana. This is called the real Brahmana. So this is what it says. Prapya sarvagyatam kritsnam brahmanyam padam advayam. So it means that the very definition of Brahmana is a Brahmin, as we say Brahmin, the very caste of called Brahmin. And the Brahmin is an important caste because they either from their forefathers or whatever, they should be studying the Vedas. Not everybody does, but they should be doing it. And they should understand it also, not just repeat it. If you just repeat it, you will still get some punya and you'll go to heaven and so on. But if you want sadhyo mukti, jivan mukti, then even the Brahmins have to understand what is Brahmanyam, which is non-duality. And it doesn't mean that you have to be Brahmin to understand non-duality. But the Brahmins are maybe half a step ahead of us, and I hope that they can stay half a step, keep moving. But I find many of what it is saying. And fulfillment doesn't mean withdrawing from action. And here Swami Paramarthananda has given this Bhagavad Gita reference in chapter 3, verses number 22. He says, Krishna says, Name parthasta kartavyam. Name partha asti kartavyam. I think it's said asti. Yeah. Name partha asti kartavyam. Trishu lokeshu kinchana na anavaptam avaptavyam varta evacha karmani. And so Krishna says, listen, I as an avatara of Ishvara, I am the avatara of Ishvara. Avatara means one who is aware of the fact of I am a jnani. Avatara means a jnani. And so jnani means that I don't have to do anything because I already know I am non-dual. That everything else is just nothing but mithya. But I keep on doing actions. I have to do what I need to do. And here there is a big discussion prior to the number 22 and after 22, where it says that you have to teach others. You have to solidify your own understanding. And you have to prove to people what your lifestyle is, that they should also follow it. And for all those reasons, your actions should continue. And so for us, what it means is, this is like, like a test. Exactly like a test. So for those of us who are moving from pure ahankara to jivan mukti. All of us are doing that. Even the swamis that teach us and so on, everyone is moving from a status of being a pure jiva to a status of being a pure jivan mukta. This is what it is. So as you're moving in this process, then karma becomes a useful test for you. If things are bothering you, that means you haven't reached. And if simple things more bother you, then you are really at the very beginning. If you are able to overcome your own likes and dislikes, as we saw, anger and being upset at things, or being very attached to some things, then you are progressing. So let this karma, this is the beautiful thing is being said, is that nididhyasanam should be done all the time. So Swami Dayananda used to say that this is called sahaja samadhi. Sahaja samadhi means it should be natural. No matter what you are involved in, your inner smile, this is why I'm very happy with myself, should be there. If it is not there, that means keep progressing. So karma becomes a test for you. This is the point that he is making. Then verse number 86. I think I'll just take a few minutes and leave some time for questions. Vipranam vinayo hyesha shamak prakrita uchyate. So nice, very nice one. It says, this is modesty, mind control, sense control. The wise people is indeed said to be spontaneous because of the natural self-restraint. Thus the wise person attains peace. So what is point out here is that when we first start, in fact, if you look at Tattva Bodha, the very initial one, it starts teaching of Vedanta. All these sadhanas are prescribed for us. In the chapter 13th, 20 qualities we must develop to have. This is like called, the amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, etc. Then in chapter 16, another 26 of these virtues are given. Abhayam, etc. So here, Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga is really meant for a preparation for the Jnanam. Then Shravanam and Mananam is the attainment of Jnanam. And Nididhyasanam is Jnana Nishtha, is to solidify. Here examples are given where you're putting a post in the ground which is unshakable. You're pouring concrete and so on and so forth. You're preparing the ground. You're making a big hole, and then you're taking out rocks and so on and pouring all of the ingredients for a pakka, for a solid post. And so you're doing all that. So this is what would be called Shravanam and Mananam. But then Nididhyasanam means you have to make sure that nothing disturbs the post until the concrete or the cement is set. And so if it is not set and somebody's vehicle backs into it, then even though you did all the right things, it tilts over. You should make sure that it doesn't tilt over. And so it requires a lot of patience on your part, testing to see, is it solid now? Done. So here, verse number 86 says that all the sadhanas that were prescribed to you were already pouring the concrete and so on and so forth. But for a jnani, those sadhanas are not necessary because they become natural. Shama, Dhamma, Uparama, Titiksha, etc. becomes their second nature as though. They don't need to do that. And the only discussion that comes up on this as the very final point is, isn't it possible that a jnani can indulge in adharma, in immoral things, for example? And so there it is pointed out that dharma is not a sadhana. It is not something that you should just say, okay, I assume dharma, now I can do dharma also. No. Dharma is not a sadhana. Dharma is your second nature. So dharma here also means saguna brahma. So just because you got nirguna brahma doesn't mean that you should ignore the quality of saguna brahma. So dharma is not to be given up. And it is not given up. It's possible that somebody may become adharma. There are examples of people that become licentious and give up that, and that's a defect that is not really there. But for the majority of Jivan Muktas, dharma is not something that they will take lightly, both for themselves as well as showing it for others. So anyway, with that I'll close the class, and we'll do maybe about 3 or 4 more classes before we start the revision. That's my guess. So with that, I close the class with a prayer. Swasti prajabhyah paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaah go brahmanebhyah shubhamasti nityam loka samastha sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasya shalini desho yam kshovarahitah brahmana santu nirbhayah sarve bhavantu sukhinah sarve santu niramayah sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Some experiences of some interruptions. My side doesn't show anything. I'm not sure. So Lichi and Shrida and Surendra. So I don't know what the nature of the interruptions are. So Arvind Taylor has a question. Would it be easier to do japa when the mind is wandering? Not quite sure about the question as to what the alternative is when the mind is not wandering. Of course, that's when it's easier to do the japa. The japa would be more difficult when the mind is wandering. In fact, the value of japa is to stop wandering. So it's not easier or more difficult, but the value of japa is when the mind is wandering. I don't know, for me, I find that doing Shravana Mananam is the best way for the wandering of the mind to stop. And so Shravana Mananam means that you study certain passages, continue to have your own study of the passages to the time now, because I'm pretty familiar with Swami Dayanandaji's teaching, so I don't, occasionally I might refer to something, but all of the new stuff that I do is from Swami Maheshanandaji, but it's very absorbing to me. The moment I start a new paragraph or a new explanation from Panchadashi or one of the other texts and so on, my mind just locks in. And so I don't need to do japa. The japa I do is prior to meditation in the morning. And I sometimes even study Swami Maheshanandaji's text before doing meditation. Or sometimes I study after doing meditation. And so I make a pratigya about doing some japa every day. So Purusha Suktam, as I mentioned to you. And also I do Durga Suktam, Medha Suktam, and a few other things from time to time. Dakshinamurti Stotram I do very regularly. And so that's about a 15-20 minute preparation, maybe half hour. And my mind is already attuned to it. Then I can straight away go into meditation. Or sometimes I start reading a text before the meditation, and that itself brings my mind down. So I don't do Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. I used to, but I don't need to do that anymore. So anyway, I think the practice of japa should be intelligently monitored. And I would say that as an advice, I would say please find certain Vedantic texts that really become very meaningful to you in the language that you are familiar with. And those are the ones that bring your wandering mind back into focus. Shanti Kumar says it sometimes whenever you have a question, the answers come right away. Yeah, that does happen. It's, don't know. Anyway, I'm concerned about this interruption. Don't know why that happened, how long it was there. Certainly I don't see any. Sometimes it gives me an indication that things were not connected, but I didn't get that today. So perhaps Chandra can throw some light on that. If I'm missing any other questions, please forgive me. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So with that, I take leave of you. Surendra says the interruptions were very short, maybe 30 seconds. Okay. All right. Very good. So we will see you next week. So I think we will have a class over the labor, Oh, this is the Labor Day. What am I saying? I lose track of it. I thought it was next week. Anyway, we will see you next week. Okay.